Oh, it feels good to be back, and Ez isn't even here, look. He's missed it. He's missed it. And we're going to be back to, well, Ez, you know, it's good to be back with you, first of all. It's been a while since I've had you on. How are you doing? It's good to have you back.
Oh, yeah, no, it's great to be back. It has been a little while, but, you know, I've always been watching your streams, man. It's great to see so many new faces on there as well. Yeah, give your guys a chance to get on there and converse with you as well, because you've got some great fans, mate. So I've been really enjoying watching your streams recently, and it's good to have you back on a bit more regularly as well, mate. So yeah, great to be back with you, mate.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it as well. It's good to be back, and unfortunately, it's deadline day coming up very soon. So I'm, as much as I don't want to hear, you know, about football transfers all the time. I mean, it is fun, don't get me wrong, but at times you think, okay, I don't want to be linked with this person, or, you know, but it means there's going to be less transfer streams. But in the good news, we're going to be doing more call-ins and Q&A streams, which we're doing tonight. So this is the big call-in, and we're going to be talking about potential new targets. We're going to be talking about Serge Aurier. We're going to be talking about Sidibe. We're going to be talking about, you know, maybe potential attacking targets. Josh Bowler's a name that's been thrown out there. But more importantly, I didn't get to do a post-match for Tottenham. So I just want to say before we get on to that, hello to Zahir, Iggy, Tommy, Kel, Chris, Jigsy, Brian, and everybody that is watching now. I hope you're all having a fantastic evening. Do get involved in the comments and make sure that you get your voice heard, because tonight's show is a call-in. As I've said, it's a call-in show tonight. Now, as you were at the game against Tottenham, as I've seen you on, you know, vlogs, even Doors vlog. I've seen you all over Twitter. What did you make of the game?
The actual game, I was really impressed with us at stages throughout the game. There was obviously elements that we're missing on, but in the context of it, it was strange, because walking out of it, we were a little bit despondent. It was hard to, there was not many people making noise, and everyone walked out a little bit solemn. But you know, having slept on it and in reflection, I'm really impressed by how we played, considering how short amount of time these players have had together, and the front three in particular. There was definitely exciting signs there. There's a lot of potential there going forward. And it was a huge test. So to come out of that, you know, a 2-0 defeat isn't bad against a team who's going to be in the top four. We're not just talking, you know, top half team. We're talking about a top 4 team. That's no disgrace at all. You know, they're obviously far more clinical than we were, and we didn't have enough shots on target. But our build-up play, I was really impressed with. And watching whole match back on Sky last night, which I couldn't resist doing. Couldn't sleep. And I watched the whole game replay, and I was really happy with the comments from the commentators. Even Jamie Carragher had nice things to say about us, and I know he got a bit of stick, but to be fair, he hasn't really slagged us off. But he was very complimentary, and the post-match analysis with Redknapp, and we had Dorsphere as well, which is obviously a name that's going to come up soon. I'm not saying anything, mate, but yeah. It was really good. It was really good to see, and we didn't disgrace ourselves at all. The fans were immense again. You know, I didn't think we could take it to another level. We did, you know, and a lot of praise from the Spurs fans as well about our atmosphere yesterday. So that definitely played a part. I'm not upset. In the cold light of day, they're a top 4 team, and we didn't disgrace ourselves. On another day, we could have got a point out of it. We could have maybe possibly even won it with the chances we should have created. But yeah, overall, I'm pleased with the performance, not with the result.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair assessment. And I think, you know, on the other day kind of thing, it's like it could have been a different day, and that's right. There's a couple of chances where we could have scored, but on another day, there's things that we're looking at going, we'd have to make changes, and it might not even to be to the fault. I don't know what you'd really need to change, other than I know there's people talking about, you know, about a new striker or a new attacker, or I don't know how you particularly feeling about that, because we did lack up front. And as much as I did like Jesse and Morgan Gibbs-White, kind of that link up, I thought they did good. I thought Jesse in the second half didn't seem like he could run much more. So for me, I still don't think he's fit yet. I think we're 4 games in now. It's got to come at some point. And this is not me by any means slagging Jesse off. I thought he had an okay game yesterday. And I thought it was. I said on Twitter I would have gone for the 2 up front of Dennis and Johnson, and then Morgan Gibbs-White just behind. But obviously didn't fully work, and then they switched to the 4-3-3, didn't they? So we weren't accurate enough on the chances we had. We didn't take any chances. Pardon me. And there was times we could have. And at the end of the day, Tottenham are the number 1 team in terms of defensive blocks in the Premier League, and Forest are the second. So I think on a really good day for Tottenham, they would have. On a really good day for Tottenham, they probably would have scored 1 or 2 more. But on a really good day for Forest, we could have scored 3 or 4 for me. So I was impressed with the game.
There was a bit of a turning point straight after the penalty save. If we'd gone up and Nico's chance, which should have been a corner, by the way, took a deflection and just a slight nick that took it away from a goal. If that had gone in, it could have made a big difference. And it is small margins. And I know it's something that is hard to take, but in a cold light of day, we weren't that far off them, considering they are a top 4 club. We dominated possession. On another day, in the first half, for example, Brendan got 2 fantastic crosses in to the near post. And what should have happened, and the commentator said that quite rightly at the time, was that as soon as one of them goes wide, one of the other 2 has to get into the box and has to head towards that near post, which you saw the difference in the second half, so clearly Cooper obviously knows what he's looking at, and he picked up on it straight away, and there were changes in the second half. But there was potential, and there was promising debuts from Emmanuel Dennis as well. When he came on, he added a spark. He had a chance himself, which if he'd kept it down, who knows what could have happened. So there were chances and there were bright sparks from our players. It will take time, and maybe these 2 games, and I hate the term free hit. I hate the term free hit because it's not a free hit. We've got to turn up and we've got to look. We're not going to go into any game just expecting to lose, and that's not going to be the mentality that Cooper has brought in anyway. So these 2 games will be a chance for us to maybe play around and give the players an opportunity to bed in a bit more. But the real test starts from Bournemouth, from the Bournemouth game. They're the games that we have to win. They're the games where we have to take points from. And especially at home, we've got to be looking to take 3 points from those kind of games. So that's where I think the actual pressure is on players and on the squad and on Cooper. I don't think there's any pressure on the Tottenham game and the Man City game on Wednesday night. That is something where we can, try out a few different things, I think. But we'll see. I think the tests are coming, but real tests are going to be going to be in our mini league at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And I think, obviously the term free hit, I think, is used a lot by the likes of, it's used a lot just in general in football. But at the end of the day, I don't think yesterday was a free hit as such. I thought that Tottenham were faced with a massive challenge. We were unlucky not to go into the second half with a 0-0 situation. I thought that Kane's goal was a bit unlucky. It came off Lewis O'Brien's knee and then just kind of went to him, as Steve Cooper said, in the position they just didn't want to find him in. So it was unfortunate. It was probably the most unlucky situation there could have been with one of the most clinical strikers that England has seen in the last 10 years. So for me, it was unfortunate. But at the end of the day, we presented a challenge. We presented a good performance. But the striking situation is something where I wouldn't say, okay, let's just get loads of new players in and let's panic. I don't think that's the case. I think it's like every other department in the squad. I think you've got to let them gel a bit. And to be completely honest, Dennis, he played against Grimsby and he was like, and people were saying, oh, he got an assist or 2 and he was brilliant. But it's like, well, you do have to remember that is Grimsby for a minute. I'm not saying that he was not a good player and he didn't do good against Tottenham, because he did really good. But that being said, it's half a game in. and that attack has not really worked together in that way before. So you've got to give them time working in that way. It's not going to fit automatically. That just happens. And when you're against Tottenham, there's a lot of pressure on you. And considering they had 6 or 7 men in the box at one time, they were essentially going from park the bus to complete fluid counter-attack in just minutes. And it was unusual to see, but I didn't think Tottenham were that great. And I still stick by my point of saying Tottenham so far this season have underperformed. There's no denying that, despite talking about the Southampton second half or whatever, it doesn't matter. Or, the fact you won against Forest and got a clean sheet, they were lucky in some aspects, but they did win. And at the end of the day, the only stat that's important at the end of the day is the result. And that was 2-0 to Tottenham. So, but I do, just before I quickly go on to my next point, I will just say hello to everybody joining into the stream. So Simon, Liam, Joe, Claire, I hope you're all doing well. Jason as well, Michael. It's good to have you all here. 81 of you in the stream at the moment. Please, if you can, drop us a like. It goes a long way. And also subscribe if you can, because, I'm going to be making a bit more content. And Ez kind of semi-revealed it earlier. So I've got no choice, have I? I've got no choice. And I know Warren's in the chat as well. And I know, Warren, you'll want to hear this. So no, I've not spoken to Dor about this yet. But Ez has just said a minute ago, he said, he mentioned Michael Dawson. So I will just tell you all, there's something in the pipeline with Michael Dawson. There you go. So if you guessed it right, well done. I know a couple of you did, and I've been trying to bat it off or just completely ignore your comments because I didn't want to give anything away. But the first podcast with Gary Birtles went really well. And then it will be, then it'll be Michael Dawson. And then who knows from there, hopefully looking at maybe, I'd love to interview George Sirianos if I could, the head of recruitment. That would be really, really good. So, but yeah, a lot of things in the pipeline.
I'll give you another name, but I'd like to actually see, because I've heard him just make the odd comments. But I'd love to see Stuart Broad. Somebody interviewed Stuart Broad about his Forest passion, because he's a really passionate fan, and he's obviously a high-profile fan that we've got. So I'd love to hear from him as well. If that can happen, mate. Let's see if we can get.
I'm sure I can. I really want to get on with John Robertson as well. Obviously, massive, part of Forest history. There's a lot of players that I do want to speak to, past, present, future, maybe some of the younger lads as well. I'd love to interview, maybe someone like Riley Harbottle, maybe like Will Swan, Dale Taylor, the upcoming lads. So yeah, there you go. We've revealed it for you there, Michael Dawson. In a few weeks, I can't say when. It's not like the Gary Birtles one, because there's a few other things that we have to do with Michael because of his work at Sky. But there's something in the pipeline. There you go. I've told you all now. But I want to get on to this question that I've been wanting to ask you, given the fact we're being linked with a lot of players. Tiyume Bakayoko is another player that we are being re-linked with. Chelsea midfielder on loan at AC Milan. I doubt that will happen. But in terms of other transfer targets like Aurier, Willy Bolly that could be coming in, Jafet Tanganga potentially, although I'd say that Bolly probably cancels that out. Is there anybody in mind that you particularly are interested in terms of transfers, or is there a position you're particularly thinking that needs strengthening, or maybe just reinforcing depth-wise?
Yeah. I won't go for individual names, but certainly in position-wise, we need to cover our centre-back, And I believe that, with a free centre-back situation or the formation that we're going for, you need 6 quality centre-backs, for a squad for that kind of role. And I don't think we've got that at the moment. So that's the one key area I think we really need to look at getting in before the transfer window ends. And I'm sure it is on their list. Obviously, the names that you've linked that are linked with us. Which ones will come in? We don't know. I mean, there's lots of rumours going around about Bolly not being refusing to play or refusing to sit on the bench for Wolves, which is obviously it's not great to hear that. But does that mean he's lined up to come to us? It's great. I mean, the amazing thing is that one minute we're linked with these players, and the next minute they're in. It's just. It's quite surreal, this transfer window, but it has been really, and you kind of touched on it, it has been really exhausting, trying to keep up with everything and trying to decipher what's real news and what's just pure paper talk. Because a lot of it, but strangely enough, a lot of it has come true. And even the Lodi deal that was announced officially today, didn't actually think that was going to happen. As much as I wanted it to, I didn't actually think that was going to happen. But it's been very surprising. So, but yeah, going back to the question, the centre back position is what I'd really think we need to, really need to focus on. But from a purely selfish and point of view, I'd still love to see Hassem Aouar in. That's the one player I think just long term for Lingard. Lingard's not going to be with us maybe more than this season, and
I do have my concerns. I do, because and I know why you say it, because I've spoken to Lee about this, who used to come on the channel a lot, and hopefully it will be after his holiday. And he said to me, he messaged me the other day, and he says, right, I want Hassem Aouar. I think he's going to come in. There's all these journalists saying it, and I'm like, well, they're not really accredited, right? They're not proper, the little pages kind of thing. I'm not saying they're wrong, by the way, because I just want to say it doesn't matter if someone's got a blue tick or not. There's people with good contacts out there. They don't have to be verified, right? But what I will say on that one is that in this instance, in all fairness, I would say that Hassem Aouar to Forest is probably not going to happen. Now, I'll give my reasoning. The reason I don't think it will happen now, maybe at Christmas, maybe something then, there could be. But the reason I don't think it will happen now is because I simply don't believe that he would be able to have essentially a year with, not a full 90 minutes or 70 minutes per game at minimum, because as a player that wants to move club and perform at a high pace, with other high ability players, and also getting good game time, I don't feel that this season we could give him that. Obviously with injuries and stuff, maybe, but you've got a very stacked midfield. On the bench you've still got Yates and Freuler, and others as well. So, maybe, but if I was going to go for any midfielder, and I wouldn't say it's because of ability, but I would say Josh Bowler I'd go for rather than Aouar, and that's not because of ability. Ability-wise, I'd go for Aouar. He's only a year older, played, bigger football, right? But Josh Bowler wouldn't require the same amount as game time. He's not played in the Premier League as well. He's a good backup. He's played, playing for Blackpool now, and he's absolutely tearing the league up. He's 23. Lewis O'Brien did the same thing. He made the step up, and I'm sure Josh Bowler could. But I just think in terms of maybe a better attitude towards the project, and maybe someone that wouldn't mind not playing the full 90 every week and has a better attitude, that would better suit Forest. But that's obviously down to the recruitment team and Steve Cooper and whatever. But that's just my idea. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's something that will obviously, part of their background research is to look at players' attitudes to how they're being utilised in the team and within the squad. But if the players are good enough, and it's something that I've heard other people talking about, let's look at Freuler, for example. He's on paper, he's a step ahead of the midfielders we had in our squad previously. So somebody like that, a lot of people are saying once he's in, he's one of those players you're just not going to be able to shift. He's going to be one of the first names on it. So when you've got players of that ability, the ones, and this will touch into and bleed into the Toffolo and Lodi situation. Lodi, and it's not a disrespect to Toffolo, who was playing in League One just a few seasons ago, and he's in the Premier League now. It's no disrespect to him. But Renan Lodi is a couple of levels above him. And that is something for him to aim towards, and not to think that, oh my God, they've brought somebody else in better than me. What am I supposed to do? What you're supposed to do is step up. What you're supposed to do is learn from that better player and be part of the squad and back him, and know that when he's in, that anything happens, you're the next one up. And when it's League Cup games or other cup games, you're going to get the opportunity, because I do honestly believe we're building a squad that he wants to be competing on as many areas as we can. Because listening to a comment, and I'm going on a tangent now, but I heard a comment made by Sam Matface, and again on Talk Shite, as we call it. But he was commenting on what Jim White said to Jim White's conversation with Evangelos Marinakis after the playoff final win. So he went and joined him up in his space that he was given, because he didn't even have the royal box. He had a whole huge area all to himself, didn't he? So Jim White apparently joined him up there. And one of the comments that Marinakis made was that I'm not there to just compete. I'm there to win the league. And if it's yes, he might have been just in the hype of a moment and he's saying things like that, but he doesn't want to just compete. So he wants our squad to be strong enough to be competing on different levels. Imagine we have a good enough cup run that we could end up in Europe next season. We don't do it by the league position, but we do it through a cup run. You'd think things like that are in their mind, and I know it's far fanciful, and especially after losing a game yesterday, I'm still on, thinking crazy things about our club and what I'm expecting from them this season. But once these players start to gel, you'll see that all the work that's gone into bringing these players in will come to fruition, because I really do believe they've done their background research. They know what they're doing. They know the type of players they're bringing in. They know the type of squad that they're building. And this is Cooper's test. This is his acid test. Now he's got to prove he can manage the better players, the higher level players. He's done it with youth. He's done it with under 17s and under 16s. He's done it with a championship squad, which was, let's face it, it was a shambles when he took over, and he turned them into a unit, and a unit that got us promoted. So he can do that with those players. Now he's going to test himself against the better players in the world. And it's all a learning curve for everyone. So I'm looking forward to it. And I do think once we start clicking, and we will start clicking, you'll see some major advancements or improvements from our squad.
And you raise a really good point, because the Jim White interview for me was really important, because there'll be people out there that watch the Wembley game. It's just your standard day, 29th of May. For other people, fans that are Premier League fans anyway, it's just a normal day. We're going to watch a bit of Wembley. Why not? It's on the telly, whatever. Let's just watch it. And they probably just think, oh, Forest are going to come up and they're just going to go straight back down. Do you know what I mean? And then they hear the owner's speech and they're probably going, oh, well, he's just saying this and this is ridiculous. Look at these guys. It's laughable. But, at the end of the day, if you don't think that the owner has been ambitious, then and you don't think he's aiming higher than survival, you haven't listened properly. You haven't listened properly, because, and this is not me saying that Forest are going to get Europe and they're just going to go and smash everything, because it's naive to say that. Forest fans that just go, we're just going to go and smash Europe. We're going to go and smash all. We're going to go to Bournemouth. We're going to smash them 4-0. We're going to go to Leeds and smash them 2-1. Fulham 3-0, whatever. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't think that's the case. I think Bournemouth, all those games are winnable, right? They're winnable. We can do it. I'm sure we've got the ability to do it. And, if we play like we do against Tottenham, and as you said earlier, be a bit more clinical in front of goal, we can do it 100%. But for me, I think that when it comes to Bournemouth and Leeds and Fulham in specific, we shouldn't underestimate these teams. Bournemouth, yes, they got beaten 9-0 and technically could be a less difficult opponent than the ones we've had. But Leeds and Fulham, Leeds have been in good form. They're fifth in the table right now. And yes, they're only 3 points ahead, but 7 points in a possible 12. That's really impressive for a team that everybody had tipped to be relegated. And Fulham, just look at the start of the season with the draw at Liverpool, and the numerous other games as well, So it's really not going to be easy by any means to beat these teams. But, it's, I think as a fan base, I think sometimes we do jump the gun a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because I love ambition. I think the owner's right in the things that he's saying, that he wants to win the league one day. There's nothing wrong with that. Leicester have said that, their owners will have said similar things, I'm sure, at some point, and they went on to win the league. Nothing's impossible if you invest correctly, if you structure the club correctly like they are now. I feel, good things will happen. But that's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to be a project, and that's what we're talking about with Steve Cooper. You've got to stay behind him. The players that are there, you've got to get players that believe in this project. That's why I'm not massively interested in OR coming now. Before Morgan Gibbs-White, yes, definitely, but now not so much. Mopé as well. If he didn't want to be at the club, why have him? We need people that believe in the project and want to come and play and have a smile on their face when they sign, like Lodi when he signed. He was smiling. He was happy looking at him on the screens the whole game. And I was just thinking, this guy wants to play for Forest. He's just seen us go out and lose. But actually, he's seen us go and play to a good standard and thought, what can I add to this game? So, but that's my thoughts on it. I think sometimes we jump the gun, and it's nice to be ambitious and positive about things, but we've got to be realistic as well. You've got to be realistic all the time. But looking ahead to Wednesday specifically, it's a massive game. You're playing at a fantastic stadium, one of the richest clubs in the world, but also one of the most well-run clubs in the world, you could argue as well. Pep's done a great job at Man City. They've won a lot. They've won a hell of a lot of, Premier League, should I say, not a Champions League yet, but I would consider them perhaps the best team in the world at the moment. Real Madrid's got to be thrown there as well. It's going to be a really, really tough game. Obviously, Haaland unlikely to feature, but you've still got all the other players there as well. So how are you feeling going into that Man City game?
How am I feeling? Well, like I say, just to go back on that point, it's not going to be a free hit, but it's a game where there's no pressure on us. We are going to go out there and give it our all, but there's no pressure on us to come back with 3 points. So I'm looking forward to it, mate. It's just going to be, it's one of those games that it's mad because I don't want to touch on FPL because I've had a nightmare with FPL, but I used to really enjoy playing it up until lockdown. Actually, lockdown kind of killed Premier League football and football in general for me. But I used to love the FPL, and purely because fantasy Premier League, we weren't in it. Now we're in it. I'm not that bothered about the fantasy Premier League. I'm looking at the real Premier League. But I've just to try and jinx it, I'm going to triple captain him for tomorrow's game. So he doesn't play and he has a stinker and I don't get any points. But like you said, he's not the only threat. The player that scares me the most is always Bernardo Silva and Gundogan. Oh. They're just those two. Jesus Christ, they could get into any club.
You've got to think you've got Cancelo there as well.
Yeah. I don't even mention De Bruyne yet. So they're the other players. You got the big ones, you got the De Bruynes, you got the Haalands, but you've got all those quality players around them, and it's just going to be. I'm going to try and enjoy the game and the experience of it, and not have too much expectation. But I want to see a performance. I want to see us, the front three blending again, and maybe see some changes tomorrow. He may change the lineup, a starting lineup. But I'd like to see him stick with that front three for a little while because we need to give them time. But touching on Jesse Lingard. He hasn't quite hit that mark yet, and I don't think you can just put it down to match sharpness. I just think he needs to step it up a little bit more. But Morgan Gibbs-White was fun. They were all good yesterday, but they could have been a bit better. But Brennan Johnson, love him. He will get better and better and better. And Morgan Gibbs-White's had a good impact so far, but he might change it. He might bring Dennis into that mix. He might start with the 1 year up front with Johnson and MGW behind him. So there's opportunities, but I'd like to see the start of a bit of a settled team soon. Because it's going to be hard. There's going to be more. I've said this before. There's going to be more rotation than we've ever seen from a Cooper squad. This coming season because he has to. One, to keep the players happy, and that is part of it. You do have to do that, and the best managers are able to do that and keep their squads happy, and it'll be a massive test for him. But there will be levels of players. Like I said, Lodi is a level above Toffolo, so that is going to be a part of it as well. So we'll see how we use it. But I'd like to think about tomorrow. We'll give a good impression of ourselves and not get, as long as we don't get hammered. I just don't want to hammer him. Let me just say this as an overview. I don't think we will get a hammering. Right, I think, there's people on Twitter that are saying Forest 5-0, done. Let's just put the bet on and that's just it, done. Well, it's not like that, though. And as much as Man City are a very good team, and we've seen them completely destroy teams, you've also seen teams like Newcastle where they've actually faced they put a challenge against them. My main worry with City is how far Ederson can kick a ball and how quick their forwards are.
And for me, that's scary, because at Everton, I thought they played the long ball. We neutralised it because a lot of the time wasn't a really great kick. Whereas Edison, he can be considered to be one of the best goal kick takers in the world. He's got a world record for the longest goal kick, so that's enough to say. But on the FPL front, actually, as I remember near on the start, I was bullied for being 81st place. It was actually. Do you know where I am now, Ez?
No, I do. Well, I sort of had a quick look. I didn't. Yeah, I saw had a quick look. There's miles above me, mate. Yeah, go on. Tell me what position it is.
11th place.
Well, so I knew it was in the top 20, but yeah,
257 points, Ez. 257.
Have you checked how poor mine is?
Oh, I haven't. I don't know whether I should. I mean,
no, don't.
I mean, there's a group of over 1,000 Forest fans, and guess what? I'm 21st. I'm 61st, which I'll still take. All I'm going to say is, Henderson, I love you so much, and St. Maximin, I know that you kind of tore us to pieces, but I also love you as well. If I was Forest putting a cheeky 40 million bid, it's nothing. But seriously, though, going back to, looking at Forest in specific, you've got Man City, you've got just a beautiful team, a really, really good team of amazing players, and even the subs that they've got are good enough to go and win a Premier League, the B team, if you like. I think even though there's unlikely that Haaland will play on Wednesday because of how injury prone he is and the risk to him, in a game where Man City are expecting to win, we've just got to make sure that we take every chance we get, especially in these games, because obviously Man City, they're not impenetrable, they're not indestructible. They can be beaten. We've seen it before. They've been beaten by Crystal Palace a couple of times. It seems like Crystal Palace is the only team that ever beat them. Weirdly, you know what I mean? But Man City, they're not impossible to beat. Very, very difficult to break through that defence, that midfield, and that attack. Just a fantastic squad. But every chance we get, we have to take. And I just want to go on to a point about Jono, actually, because it was this guy here, homeless guy, that mentions it. I want it to fall to Johnson as well, because I don't know what it is. But I remember in pre-season, Jono had a different haircut. I don't know what you'd call it. The haircut they had, and I thought, it's like an evolution of haircuts, and every time he gets a haircut, he's getting like 10 times better, because he got, when he came back after pre-season, he was looking sharp, and I thought, people saying he was quiet, I don't agree. I think he was just getting better steadily, getting into the Premier League standard. You saw him at Tottenham. Jamie Carragher was impressed. The amount of pundits that were impressed, and I spoke to Dawson, everybody after the game, everyone was impressed, right? Because of how well he played, because it wasn't just the fact that he was getting in on goal and the little flick-ons that he does, and just how quickly him and Morgan Gibbs-White are blending together and working so well together is immense. But also, one thing that struck me was actually fairly physical. He wasn't shying away from these little tackles anymore. Instead of just quickly passing it away to someone else, he was actually going in for it, skilling around people. I saw him at times. Now, last season, you'd see him passing it around on the right wing. This time, he was cutting into the middle. When have you ever seen him do that? He's adapting his game. He's getting more confident. And for everybody that was just completely slagging him off and saying that he's not good enough for the Premier League, look back at that Tottenham game and look at the contributions he made, throughout the game. I thought he was really, really good. But I want to know, what did you make of the one up front and the 2 10s? Would you have kept that, or would you have gone for the 1 10 and 2 up front?
It worked in the sense that, and something that you touched on, is how fluid that front three will be, and they were very fluid yesterday. The problem, like I said, was when one of them went wide, they didn't have anybody in the box. One of them should have been in the box, because he made a couple of perfect crosses that if somebody had cut across the defenders, it was an easy tapping. Somebody like Surridge in that position would have, or Awoniyi in that position would have absolutely loved it. So it did work in terms of creating chances, but what it didn't work in is having enough players in the box. So that's something they're going to have to work on, and they will work on. They've only literally had a week or two together, so which will be a few training sessions, But what I love about Johnson, and I'd love to get the feedback from our viewers today, is but with all the signings that we've brought in, I still think he's our best player. I think he's still our number one. He is our surprise package where everyone doesn't know about him yet. And his ceiling is just so high. You know, he's going to get better and better and better. And he is finishing, alluding to that comment, replying to that comment, sorry. I wouldn't want it to fall to anybody else. You know, he's got ice in his veins, that lad has. And I've never, for a long time, we haven't had anybody as clinical as him in front of goal. You know, where 9 out of 10 chances he's going to put away. And even the one when he was offside against, against West Ham? What a finish. You know, the goalkeeper didn't know. He didn't know at the time. What a finisher. You know, it's so cool.
Do you know what as well, though, Wes? You know what as well? What did we pay for Johnson? Nothing. You know, investments we made in the past in bringing in good staff in the academy, Gary Brazil, others as well. You know, the investment in the academy and the also Cooper's trust in the academy players as well, because once he came back from the loan and whatever, and Steve Cooper had the full opportunity to use him a bit more, in the squad, and made him into an absolute beast. And if you thought Brennan Johnson was a beast last season, you can imagine how good he's going to be this season. Because I mean, I've never seen Jono go aggressive at anyone, but you saw when Richarlison was doing the keepy uppies, and you saw his dad's post after, and it's like, I've never seen that side of him. You know what I mean? And it's confidence oozing from him, from what I can see.
There is, and he's playing like a man now. Not that he ever wasn't, and you might bring this up in a bit, but this is why I'm so happy about Alex Myton's deal today to Sheffield Wednesday. I think that's exactly what he needs. He needs to be at that level at a big club, which is only up the road from him. Excuse me, where he can kind of be. And this is what was so great about Cooper bringing him on for the last few minutes against Newcastle. He can now say in his head, and it's not to make him big-headed, but to give him the confidence, I'm a Premier League player. Even though he's had 10, 15 minutes in the game where we were losing, he's a Premier League player now. Now he can walk into that dressing room at Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough and walking with his head held high and that confidence. And I don't want it to be turned into arrogance and cockiness, but that confidence. And that confidence can go a long way. I want him to have an amazing season. And I've got a couple of Sheffield Wednesday fan friends. And they're really excited to see him, and I think he'll make a big difference to their Challenger season. But a great move for him. And that's what happened to Brennan. But Brennan was so good that he took to the Championship like a duck to water. He will take to the Pro. He's taken to international football like a duck to water. So the Premier League, he's actually gone one level above before even entering the Premier League. He's one that the sky's the limit for him. Literally is. He can go as high as he wants to. Definitely.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And for anybody that just want to give me and Ez, some of your thoughts as well, don't forget that the invite link is actually pinned in the YouTube comments. Please remember to like the video as well, also in the process. But if you do want to join, just remember to click the invite link, whether you're a Forest fan or not. If you're a City fan, welcome. We'll see you on Wednesday. But if not, come and join us. Now, I want to talk as well, and I think, I was really impressed, as we've already touched on, and the new reports coming in now, from a friend of mine, Louis Wielden, and the Mail Sport. So I'm gonna kind of tiptoe around this, because I know that the Mail Sport, I don't follow them and I don't particularly rate them. They're reporting that that actually, that potentially Serge Aurier is coming into the club, and now the deal is finally over the line. According to Louis Wielden and the Mail Sport, the guy was actually at the City ground last night. So former Villarreal and Spurs and also PSG right back was at the City ground last night. So I do want to know your thoughts on that, because I'm not so sure of the timeline with some of these signings, as I've said, and John Percy blocked me for this. So that's an ongoing thing that I'm trying to sort with him, because it really upset me. But, the timeline in which players are signing, because Lodi had his medical yesterday, not the day before, right? And I don't think that Aurier was there yesterday. I think he'll be coming tonight or tomorrow. I think that it's kind of, I don't know. I think Aurier's coming, but not at at the speed that the journalists are reporting it at times. But I want to know what you make of Aurier actually signing. If you know much about him as a player, he's got decent Prem experience, but his attitude is the concern that I have, as I mentioned earlier, with other players as well. So how are you feeling about that? Free transfer?
Well, that you just literally touched on the point about the only concern I have about him was some of the reports of his attitude, and and what I touched on as well is arrogance. So it seems to be played a part in his makeup so far. But from his playing ability point of view and his experience, you wouldn't think twice, you know. And you say he's a free transfer as well, you know. Yeah. So, but it's just I'm trying. This is the thing with this whole transfer window. Before I've had my time to get my head around the players that we're linked to, we've either got them in, or you know we've moved on to the next one. So it's really hard for me to even let it sink in the kind of players that we're being connected with. When and a lot of people have mentioned this. A year ago yesterday, we were drawing 1-1 with Derby in the Championship, and Gayton Bong was our left back that game, you know, and look where we've come to. So it is almost night and day, different world from what we were talking about just a year ago. So it's hard. It's been hard for me to really absorb it and take it in and understand how we're going for these players, because it's something Joe and I talked about on the way to the game yesterday about we expected obviously players to come in. Certainly didn't expect the volume of players that we brought in, but now looking at it, it totally makes sense. And looking at some of the reports today about how it impacts financial fair play and how Forest are well within their limits at the moment, and are able to do what they're doing because of that, really, you know, makes more sense of the overall picture. But didn't expect this many signings, and certainly didn't expect the level of players that we've been linked to and the level of players that we've brought in. You know, I thought the best player we would go for would be Morgan Gibbs-White, and it wouldn't be anyone else near that level. But we already had Jesse Lingard in, and then we brought Nia Carter in, which, you know, his injury, you know, hopefully doesn't cost us big time, because he's one that I think, you know, you could see the level that he was at. So being linked with these players, it's really hard to absorb it and really let it sink in. So I'm kind of waiting for this transfer window to be over. Whoever else we get in now is only going to be better than what we've already got, in my opinion. He's not going to be filling out the squad now. So it's going to be exciting. And I'm sure you agree with me that something's going to happen on transfer deadline day. Forest have done historically. We've had a couple of transfer windows where it's been absolutely boring and Forest fans have hated it, but we kind of look forward to transfer window deadline day, and I expect something will come in that day, and it might be something left field that not even been brought up yet. I don't know, it'll be exciting, but there's certain players that we need, in certain positions that we need filling, and I think they'll focus on that. Aurier, if his attitude isn't an issue, then like I say, player-wise, you wouldn't turn him down. You know, you wouldn't turn that kind of deal down. And he is a quality player with plenty of experience. I wouldn't turn him down.
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, when it comes to new signings, everyone's a specialist now, aren't they? You know, and it goes to, if I said I don't think that Asta Vranks is the right player to have joined Forest 3 months ago, you know, or sorry, 3 weeks ago when he was first linked, you know, you know, people would have hated me for it, but then it comes to it about a week later and they go, oh, I don't want him now, I want someone else. And it's, as a fan base, you get greedy because it's like, oh, I want this player, I want this player, I want this player. But it's like, actually, how much depth do we need? What players do we need? How much money have we got? What are the wages like? Do they fit in with our philosophy? Because I'm not being funny. If you came up to me and said, do you want Ronaldo and Messi? I'd say no, not in a million years, not even on a free. I wouldn't do it, because as much as they're good players, as I don't think that they align with anything we do. And it's the same with Bakayoko from AC Milan, or sorry, Chelsea, should I say. I don't think that his attitude is particularly brilliant, nor do I think he's played brilliant, you know. So for me, I would say it's all about earning your place in the squad, you know, and obviously with Toffolo, I think he's earned to be where he wants to be, but time's going to tell. If Lodi's performing better in training, like I suspect he will, you know, if Lodi does better when he comes onto the pitch, maybe in the last 20 or 30 minutes, then that's just how it goes. You know, anything can happen from there. But the Omar Richards situation, you know, is quite concerning, I would say. I mean, I don't really know much about the situation. I've seen him a couple of times since the injury apparently happened, but I think it was before he came to Forest, really. I think there was a mess up on the medical, but that's a different story. But it's a bit concerning. You know, I mean, you know, we've only spent 8 or so million on him, but it's an investment still in a player we thought was going to be our first team left back. Very good player. What do you think the holdup is, in your honest opinion? Now, I'm not asking for people to come at us for this as well, because don't forget, this is you know, this is all about what your opinion is on this. So what is your opinion on the Omar Richards situation? Are we buying in, or should I say loaning in, Lodi for the long term because of a long-term injury, or is there other reasons?
Yeah, well, it's obviously a strange one, and I think I agree with you that it's probably something he came into the club with, and that's what the annoyance of Marinakis was, why it was picked up in the medical. It's a strange one because I've heard some people commenting that he may not never play for us. You know, I don't know how true that is, and but I've heard it from a couple of people. We have to have. Toffolo has done well. There's no doubt about it. He has done well. He stepped up as well as he could have done. But what's his ceiling? You know, how high can he actually go? And like I said, so a player like Ronan Lodi, who's got the experience of a much higher level, is that step above him. But whether he'll be able to settle into the English game, you know, with there's a lot, you know, there's lots to take on. It's not just coming in and playing in a team. You know, you got to the environment, the culture, everything has to be right for, especially players coming from South America initially. You know, I know obviously he's been playing in Europe, he's played in Spain for the last few years, but he's coming from a totally different culture, and the culture in Spain is more aligned with what he's come from back home. Will he be able to settle in the country? Will it be as simple as just putting him in and watching him go? But you never know. But the Omar Richards one is concerning. You know, when will he be back? Is there an opportunity to see him before the World Cup window closes? You know, and if not, obviously they've covered their backs by bringing Lodi in. That was the whole reason. You know, I don't think they would have if Toffolo had that stiff competition, because you've obviously got the ability of Nico Williams to be able to play across the other side as well. So that would have been, in my opinion, enough cover if Omar Richards was fit. But the fact that he's not, and they've already brought in potentially a replacement, is something to think about. Maybe not to worry about, because I think we've got a very good player that we've just brought in. So why are we worrying about somebody who hasn't actually kicked a ball for us yet? It's something that we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but something went wrong in that medical that didn't please the owner. So we'll let them sort that out, and we can speculate, but we might end up going down wrong alleys and antagonizing people's opinions and things like that. But I think he's one that we were excited about him coming in, and let's hope that it's not too serious, and let's hope that at some point we do see him in a Forest shirt, because that will just add extra competition. And what you want is a competition to be there. It's got to be quality competition. You know, if the players are good enough, the player in front of them is going to worry about their position, and that's what it's got to be. And I've said that from day one. The competition has to be both ways. You know, for whether it's you're the one who's in or the one waiting to get in. It's got to work both ways. The person who's got the shirt should be worrying about, if I have a bad game, there's somebody waiting to take over from me, and the person waiting should be thinking that, you know, any opportunity now, I've got to be ready to hit the ground running when I'm called upon. So become.
Yeah, I agree, and I think with Omar Richards, it's a player that I've rated, and as you very well know, as I'm a big fan of Football Manager, and I just want to say, unfortunately, I didn't get the move to Forest I was hoping for, but never mind. Apparently, Champions League isn't enough for them. But you know, the player that Forest have in Omar Richards is special. He's a very good player. And the thing that makes me sad about the whole situation is that he's forgotten about in every conversation we have now, which is a shame because obviously we can't talk about him and regard him higher than Toffolo, of course. But, there's a real prospect in Omar Richards, a young player who's played for Bayern Munich and is really highly regarded. But because of Alphonso Davies and other players as well, you're not going to get into that squad, which is really, really upsetting. So, I think I do hope he does come back before the end of the season. I've not heard anything either. So I'm not going to pretend as if, I think he's going to be back next week. Or, like with Niakate, where we've heard he could be back in the next 3 weeks. With Omar Richards,
we've not even heard any rumours about. Yeah, we've not even heard any rumours about him coming back. And like you just touched on, we have about Niakate, whether they're true or not. We have heard bits coming out. So nothing's. No, it's gone very quiet, and it's not to say that we've forgotten him. He literally hasn't played for us yet. He's it's almost like the signing that we made and loaned out straight to Olympiacos. It almost has a touch of that about it at the moment.
We know the reasoning. Me and you know you can guess the reasoning, right? I'm not going to say, but I think you can probably guess what the reasoning is for that, and I'm not going to say, but Keith, and I want to talk to you about media speculation around player and manager relationship sets, because I think, Keith, I don't know who you've heard this from. I would say personally, I think that's probably I don't know in the tone that you're saying this. So if it's a negative tone, I would say it's probably not true. If it's in a tone where Steve Cooper's patted him on the back and gone, look, Harry, we've got this new lad coming in. He's going to get first team. You weren't meant to be first team for whatever reason, or we didn't have you in first team in mind in our plans. And you knew that when you joined us, it might be in your contract that you're going to be rotation, and we're going to put Loddy on. Or from what you're saying, is he saying that, look, mate, I don't rate you at all. I didn't want you at the club. We're getting Loddy in for a reason. Because, for me, I think that rumours, and it's not just that. I mean, there's a lot of other things going around as well. People just saying, "Oh, I know a guy with this," or "I know a guy with that," when in reality, it's a load of shit, right? But it has a damaging effect potentially on player relationships with each other, with the manager, with their own mental health. But that's just my little, also all kind of mini rant there. But a player I do want to touch on, as Adam rightly brings up, Mangala, great player, physical, accurate, just all round a very good midfielder for 12 billion. Now he obviously, we thought, had fatigue, or Steve Cooper said he had fatigue. Are you concerned about that by any means? Because I can see him being back for Wednesday. But what do you think the hold-up was for him not playing at the weekend, or not even being named in the squad?
Well, it might be a bit of extension of that, or he might not have been in the plans for that particular game. It's going to be horses for courses for certain games, And to be fair, Yates was a game changer against Everton. His impact made the difference, and he had a great game against Grimsby as well as a captain, and really brought on the young players around him. So I wasn't that surprised to see Yates in the starting lineup yesterday. I was surprised to see Mangala not in the squad at all, but that we might be reading too much into that. But I think I like yourself, I expect him to be in on Wednesday. I think he'll be back in. And who he's partnered with, I'm not sure. And this is the beauty of it. I'll probably partner him with Freuler actually on against that team, because you're going to need more technical players. But it will be horses for courses. We're not going to buy all these players, all this quality, without knowing that certain games are going to need certain types of player. And that's what we've brought in. And I think Cooper's just trying to cover his options as best as he can. But like yourself, I expect him, Aurier, to be back for Wednesday. I think he's going to play in that game. But who knows? It's amazing, because nobody can predict the lineups at the moment, especially the middle centre midfielders. So it's
someone was actually leaking the lineups all of last season. I will just say, I managed to get the lineup for almost every game, which obviously I don't put out on Twitter, because why would you? But yeah, there's it's weird, isn't it? You know, being a Premier League club, keeping things quite concise and keeping things quiet as well is difficult, because not only have you got the players to worry about, you got their agents. You know, sometimes players go to their agents with concerns or news. Sometimes their agents go a little bit free roam and just tell journalists to say things.
Yeah.
You know, and
just with the size of the operation it is now, once you get into the Premier League, there's a lot more people around the club than have ever been there before. You know, there's more there's more staff around the players, and you know, even just in the canteen and this, that, and the other. You know, so yeah, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen, and it's a kind of path of a course. But as long as it's not detrimental to team morality or team spirit and the fans either, you know, as long as it doesn't have a negative impact. Unfortunately, that sort of stuff is going to get leaked out, and it's going to be very hard to contain it all. But yeah, so as long as it doesn't have a negative impact on the fans or the players and the club, then you just kind of got to accept it, I think.
Well, let me ask you then, because Iggy Tommy asked this question, and he says, will Lodi signing or Lodi signing seriously put Richards and Toffolo's noses out of joint? They signed to be first and second choice out left backs respectively, a cause for disharmony amongst new players. And also, I do want to say as well, 3 players in that position. You know, when it comes to next season, and assumingly, you know, if Lodi was to leave or doesn't come back. But let's say Lodi did stay, or let's say it comes to Christmas and all 3 of them are fit. What do you think the situation's going to be there? Because if Toffolo's been told he's rotation and he won't even be that, and he's third choice, or whoever's third choice, it might not be him. Would that cause disharmony, or do you think that's still just competition?
It's competition, and it's got to be competition. No player should be expecting to be on that, you know, be in that team every single week. Nobody, you know, I don't care who you are. And so Cooper's talked about this numerous times. He doesn't like hierarchy. So there's no hierarchy within his setup. There's no hierarchy, certainly within in his dressing room. So nobody, obviously you've got the captain, you've got the vice captain, but other than that, everybody's on the same level. Nobody is told that the conversations he would have had with the players individual, and this is something he always touches on. He loves to talk to the players, not just about the football, about their personal lives, about their families. And surprisingly, just touching on the previous comment that you raised, he spoke about it in his press conference before the Everton game about the conversation he'd had with Toffolo just that day. You know, they'd had a one-to-one and they'd had a catch-up. Cooper is somebody who knows how to talk to players. He's a man manager. That is his strength. Now, we've got to allow him to get on with it and not try and, you know, I'm not saying us personally, but the media and fans in general, people out there to kind of cause a little bit of unrest. Cooper will know what's coming, and he'll know that there's wolves at the door, you know. So he'll keep his squad tight-knit and bouncing off each other and pushing each other on, and it will be a squad. But there will be players that are better than the others. And if somebody comes in my job who's better than me, I can do one of 2 things. I can go on a Mardy and say, oh, well, I'm not bothered then, he's better than me. Or I can think, well, that's what I need to look up to, and that's how good I need to be to get to the level that person's at. Now, I think the players that he's brought in and the mentality that they're looking on, and he's mentioned as well, they're looking at a holistic approach to this. That's all part of the makeup that we're looking for. You know, you're not just a good player, you're a good squad player, you're a good team member, you're somebody who's going to not get upset when you haven't got your chance, and you'll step up when you are given your chance. So I think we've got to be realistic in the kind of players that we're looking to bring in, the kind of squad that he's looking to build, and the person who's at the helm. You know, I've said before, he's in charge without being the boss. Everything runs around Cooper, you know, and whether even the owner does what he is there to please his manager. You know, we've got one of the best managers we could have possibly hoped to have, and fingers crossed he'll prove to be that. So we've got to let him do what he's got to do, and I don't think he's going to allow any unrest in his squad. And if it gets to a point where we get to January, and I don't know when that transfer window opens after the World Cup, to be honest. I don't know if it's January or pushed later on. let's say we get to that stage and all three of them are fit, all three of our left backs are fit. If it gets to a point where one of them's upset about not getting any time, Cooper will move him out, because he doesn't. What he won't want is unrest. What he won't want is somebody spitting their dummy out because they're not getting their chance. What he'll want is somebody who's thinking, well, what do I need to do now to get into that squad? How good do I need to be now to get in? And we've seen it with somebody like Yatesy. There was people saying, how's Yatesy going to get into this squad? Yates has stepped up as soon as it is from his first contribution in the Premier League. You can see he's worked hard and he's stepped up. He didn't waste those couple of weeks when he was on the sidelines injured. He stepped up, and that's why I saw from Worrell to an extent on the weekend as well. And I know people were commenting about him, and I made my comments about him, and I'll stand by my comments. And what I wanted him to do and what I expected him to do is to step up and go another level and go again. And that's what he's doing, and that's what we want from our players, don't we?
Yeah, massive improvement against Tottenham. Huge improvement. But that being said, and this is not to discredit him because he did really, really well, but I do think that Harry Kane and Son on form, we would have seen a proper, we would have seen really how good, Worrell can do against those players. But that being said, Kane got goals, so he was on form in some way. He's got 4 goals so far, and he's not really hit the mark properly yet. So, he played really, really well.
Game plan yesterday was spot on. Their game plan was spot on.
It was. But that even then, though, if they were all on form, though, I think that they would be playing by that game plan. I think they'd be very, very good because there was a couple of occasions where they could have scored. But yeah, they were really impressive. And looking at some of the comments on the chat, Sam, good to have you. Big shout out to your dad, John. Pleasure to be to have you here, Willie Bolly. I think he's a decent signing. He's got a lot of Prem experience. He offers something there. Just wondering whether Japhet Tanganga might be the better option. But that being said, Japhet Tanganga may be a little bit more injury prone. So, yes, he's younger, but injury prone isn't really what we need, especially at the moment. Now, what midfield duo would you start against City? That's a good question. For me, I would go Lewis O'Brien, standard, Freuler, and then just in front. In fact, no. I'm going to go Lewis O'Brien and Mangala, and then probably Morgan Gibbs-White as the 10, and then I'm going to put it out there. I know Awoniyi wasn't on the pitch very long. I want Awoniyi on to start with, just for a little bit. Maybe present a bit of physicality towards a fairly big, Man City defense. But that being said, my thing is that pace did go against Man City and did a lot against them when it came to St. Maximin and other players. Even the likes of Kyle Walker was completely outpaced. So it's a really tough one, to be honest. But my concern is, and I thought Ryan Yates did do good the other day, but I would have brought Freuler on a little bit earlier, to be fair. I thought Yates did do well, but I just thought making a change in the midfield a little bit quicker would have been better. But it's a tough call. But as who would be your midfield against Man City?
So I think I might go for a change of formation.
Oh, here we go.
I'd probably go for a 4-3-3. So in the 3 in midfield, I would probably drop. This is what I envisaged for the Tottenham game actually. But you'd have a 3 in midfield and Kouyaté being one of them. So if they needed to drop to a 3 at the back, he could slot back in to a 3 at the back formation, and they could be quite fluid in that sense. But I'm going to go. No, right. I'm changing my mind then. No, I'm not going to go with 4-3-3. But I'm going to go with 2 pairing that I'd have in the middle is Mangala and Freuler. I think from a technical point of view, I think we're going to get many chances. I think we're going to have to play kind of like how Tottenham played against us yesterday. We're very deep and just hit them on counter attack, because we're going to have to soak up a hell of a lot of pressure, and they're going to have a lot of possession, especially at home against us tomorrow on Wednesday night. Sorry. So that might be the game plan that we'll have to look at. That we just soak up, and hit them on. And to do that, I wouldn't bring a 1 year in. I'd actually bring Dennis in instead of Lingard, and I'd have Morgan Gibbs-White, Dennis, and Brennan Johnson as our front three, just to give us that pace on the counter attack. I'm not saying Lingard hasn't got that pace. I think Dennis is a bit faster than him, and I think he's faster than a 1 year still. So that's about really go those front three.
Definitely.
So the two in the midfield, I'd have Freuler and Mangala.
Well, let me ask you then, because and you raise I think it's absolutely right. I think that's a good pacey attack against a team which at times, not all the time, can be vulnerable to pace. And there's no, it's going to be, well, I think it'd be Kyle. Would it be Kyle Walker versus Johnson? I don't know if it will be. I think it might be Cancelo versus Johnson. But whoever it is against Johnson or whoever, it's going to be a tough battle. But obviously, Man City, as you say, they hold a lot of possession. They've done very well. Forest in the last 4 games, out of the 2 out of the 4 games, they've had the most possession in either. So I think it was West Ham and Tottenham, I think, are the 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. So, possession-wise, they're doing okay. They're not doing bad. It's about using that possession. And obviously, pace, as I've already mentioned, something that could be a weakness to Man City, but there's not really many weaknesses to Man City. But set pieces. Let's talk about set pieces, because you saw that Kieran Trippier goal. I'm not going to say by any means that I'm expecting Nico or Morgan or Lingard to go out there, get a free kick goal, and that's it easy. But I think, and this is a slight constructive criticism, I don't think that Forest set pieces, even on the corners, has been really up to standard yet this season. And that's not to say it can't improve, because I'm sure it will. But I thought, Morgan Gibbs-White progressively got a little bit better, but I thought, his corners weren't that impressive, and Nico's were a little bit off the target, but getting better, but just still not quite there. But I think set pieces could actually play a massive piece at Man City. You've got players like Lewis O'Brien who can win set pieces really well. I'm sure Dennis can also, and Johnson. So what do you think about that? Maybe looking at focusing on set pieces for this week, this midweek game, because perhaps it could be only the proper real opportunities you get to put a shot in and not get challenged.
I mean, you kind of can't play for set pieces, but I genuinely do think that is something we need to work on, because I've been disappointed with our set pieces so far. There was a couple of them, especially from Morgan Gibbs-White yesterday, that I was short. It was a free kick, wasn't it? That was near the corner flag, and I think he was looking for Lingard, but he just passed it to nobody, and that was such a great position early on in the game to have a set piece from. And we have had a couple of games where we've been wasting our chances, and that's something that has to change, And I would have thought in all the players that we've bought, we've got some set piece specialists. So maybe just a bit more training, a bit more practice, but it's certainly a way that we can get at them potentially. But there's such a strong, like you said, there's a very few weaknesses in that squad, and that's why there's levels in this league, and them and Liverpool and Tottenham and maybe even Arsenal this season, from an amazing start that they've had, are that level ahead of everybody else, and everybody else is trying to, there's another mini league below them with Chelsea and maybe Man U, one of my favourite teams, in there, and a couple of others.
I know they're not your favourite.
There's levels within this league, and they're at the top of that, so there's going to be very few weaknesses and very few chances to get at them. But gameplay wise, that's probably what I'd go with tomorrow. I'd probably go with we're going to have to sit deep and soak up a lot of pressure and hope to hit them on the counter attack. But we have got players, and I can keep going back to Brennan Johnson. He's one of those that once we can't keep that secret for too much longer. I think once the others in the Premier League, and I'm talking about the top teams like the Liverpool's, Man U's, Arsenal, Liverpool's, Man City's, Arsenal's, look at somebody like him and realise how good he is, he might really struggle to hold on to him. So let's keep him as our secret for now and our secret weapon. But we can exploit them at the back with our pace. You know, if the chances fall right and we get them on counter attack, that's what I think we're going to have to rely on more than set pieces. Set pieces, we've still got a big squad. We still haven't got a very big squad, you know, players. So yeah, I don't think we can rely on it, but we do need to improve on it. Definitely, our corners, free kicks, whether they're shots at goal or deliveries into the box, we really do need to practice on those and make them a lot more. But yeah, as you said as well, it got better from Morgan Gibbs-White as the game went on. You know, we had a few more opportunities, but by that stage, I think there were a goal or 2 goals ahead, and we had 11 men in the box, so it was very hard to get anything past them. But we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We do need to practice.
Well, we're going to enter into the last 5 minutes. We're going to do a quick Q&A. Now I've got my driving lesson in the morning, so I want to be sharp for it. I do want to be sharp for it. I must say, because I'm not far. I can't be far off passing now. And Glyn, if you're listening, you couldn't be as kind as to make it happen. No, I'm kidding. He's doing a good job, Glyn, my driving instructor. So, legend, if you're listening back to this, because I know you will be at 4 in the morning because you're crazy. You're up at crazy o'clock. But any questions that you have for me and Ez, I will be answering as quick as I can and as best as I can. Now, 120 of you on here and only 42 likes. Come on, people. Let's get liking. Let's get subscribing. And let's get the job done. All those little subscriber things that people do. Get it done, bro. So having a look now, how much time do you think Biancone will get this season, Jay? I don't think he'll get a lot. But he's got to be used at some point. I found him a bit of an odd signing, as I don't know how you feel about this. But I mean, I think that, he's a good player. He's done it at Troyes over in France and whatever else, he's experienced. But did you not find it a bit of an odd signing? Because, I mean, I'm not saying that just because I don't know him, he's not a good player. But I was just concerned as to where he's actually going to play and how often, considering he stepped down from first team game time,
Well, he has stepped up a level. The Premier League is a level above where he was before. And I said at the time when we signed him that he's a Moneyball signing. He had 4 years left on this contract. So to get him at the price that we got him, at the age he's at, he's one that's going to develop. And the club will be developing it. So he's going to be a slow burner. He was never one I expected was coming straight into our first team lineup, But he'll play in the cup games. Don't forget we've got and I do think we're going to pay attention to the cups this season. Like I said, it's a route into Europe, and there's no way we're not going to be looking at it. But I don't care how fanciful that thinking is. But the club will be seriously be looking at that as a potential avenue into Europe. So he will, and we've got a huge tie against Tottenham, in the next round of League Cup. So games like that, I think that's where he'll get his game time. And you have to have a big enough squad that will be able to fight on more than one, one frontier this season. So I think he will get his time, but I think he's a slow burner. I didn't ever expect him to come straight. But the more game time he gets, the more confidence he'll get. And the better he will get, and he'll have better players around him. So that's the whole point of it. But he's one that hopefully, if the game plan goes the way it is, so I think he's on a 4 or 5 year contract that we signed him on. By the end of that contract, he should be worth 2-3 times what we paid for him, and that's one of those Moneyball signings, and that's what we're looking at. So no, I didn't expect him to jump straight in. And I think he's a long-term signing, and he will get his chance because he has got potential and he's got the right. I think he's got the right attitude, and that's what's more important with those kind of players. But they know that they're not going to be first teamers, but they're going to be there for the long term. So we are building a squad. It's not just for this season; it's long term.
Absolutely, and it's definitely. Well, I mean, you've brought in. Well, we could potentially bring him up to 21 signings, is what people are suggesting at the moment. So, it's a fairly standard 21, 22 signings. Well, I say fairly standard. It's the squad depth will be fairly standard in terms of Premier League standards. So for me, that would make sense. Now, to answer a couple of other questions, have we offered 25? I know we've made an offer, but PSV actually aren't looking to sell him. That's the point. So I don't know what the valuation for them is down to, but I think is it is it Van Nistelrooy? I think is the manager at PSV. It is.
Yeah.
He's not interested in selling Gakpo at all. Just as I think that whole division, Eredivisie, has been completely ripped of a lot of players, and I know that Ajax now at the moment are just saying no to any offers that come in for players, especially considering they've lost Antony, obviously Frankie de Jong a couple of seasons ago, and others. So a lot of things going on there. Now we'll have one last question, and we're going to answer a no, Simon. It wasn't standard 21 signings. I mean standard 21 players in the squad. And Neil, thank you for your vote in the Best Young Creator Awards. If you can vote as well at the FCAs, please do. Goes a long way. It means a lot. But the last question we're going to answer before we head off. Roberto Blanchini, are you concerned at all about quality depth at centre-back?
I'm laughing because I know who that is. That's one of my best mates. But yeah,
okay.
So I love it. I love his Twitter tag. But that's probably one of the best fantasy Premier League game names that you could have. But yeah, am I concerned? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the area that we need to really look at. As in terms of like that should be our focus. The other players will be, like I said, if they're good enough, if they're going to add to our squad, then he'll bring them in. But yeah, centre back is a position that I think we need. If you're playing 3 centre backs, you need 6 quality centre backs in that squad. That all pushing each other, and we haven't got that at the moment. So there are names that have been linked. Obviously, Bolly seems to be the one that seems most like. The only concern I have about him is again the lack of pace, and Niakate gave us some pace in that back three, and now he's out. We need somebody of his stature and his ability, and probably Tanganga would be the only one that of the names that I've seen linked would be the only one that fits that profile. So yeah, I am concerned about it, and I think that will be the focus of the recruitment team over the next couple of days until the transfer window ends. But it'll be. I expect something to happen on that transfer window day. I think we're going to be glued to the timeline like everyone else.
Well, whether it's Bolly or it's Tanganga, we'll keep you up to date. We're going to be doing a stream tomorrow evening, but we will be with Ellie Mollison, who a lot of you know from Door on Tour. So she'll be a panelist tomorrow. And then also coming up next week, we've got the very first, hopefully next week or the week after, the first Dave and Jay show. And I've already got the image for it from a Rad's video that he did. So I shared it on Twitter, and it's the one where we're both looking really serious. It's going to be that one. So if you've enjoyed this podcast with me and Ez, the amazing Ez from at Forest Fans Hub, don't forget to subscribe to them on YouTube and follow them on Twitter, and also follow me on Twitter if you wish. Then that'd be great. Now, Ez, thank you for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure. And don't worry, Simon, I won't forget to use my mirrors tomorrow. I'm actually capable of driving now, so you won't notice me swerving in and out of the lanes now. You won't see it. Well, mainly because I go too quick. I'm joking. That's a joke. But thank you for you all joining. Have a great evening. Subscribe, like, comment, keep up the conversation, and we'll be back very soon. So cheers for joining, everybody. Have a great evening, and we'll see you all tomorrow night at 8:30. See you soon.